Good morning still. So update injury-wise, and I think you guys may have heard this. So Dawson Knox and most everyone will practice in some capacity. Dawson, we'll see how he does today. He's had a good week, I could tell you. So if he continues to progress, there's a good chance he'll play. Kyer Elam most likely will not be activated. And then Vaughn, I'm sure you guys, Vaughn is looking like he's ready to go from a football standpoint. And that's where we're at.
Is there anything you need to see from Dawson specifically today? Is it like catching, is there
Yeah,
steps
no, I think I feel like he's answered a lot of that, like with pads on yesterday and with no pads with the catching on Wednesday. I think he's answered a lot of that. It's just more, let's just continue to take it one step at a time and see how he handles today and how he feels afterwards too. That feedback's important.
What does Dawson bring to your offense?
Yeah, Joe, I mean, it's, we were just obviously on the radio there talking about the blend really of Dalton and Dawson. And Dalton has certainly shown us what he's capable of and taking advantage of the opportunity that he's gotten. And so blending the two together, both are good football players, both a little bit different, one from the other. And I think that blend is important. Dawson's obviously good at the point of attack, strong veteran player, and does a good job in the pass game in his own right as well, which I know Dalton does too. So, blending those two in the right capacity, proportions, however you want to say it, is important for us.
Has he been gone long enough, Dawson, I mean, that bringing him back and Dalton in his evolution and what we've seen, when you say blending, are you blending almost like two different players than when we saw them last together on the field?
Yeah, Tim, I think it's, we knew some about Dalton then, and now we know more about Dalton, and that's kind of just the evolution of a rookie, the journey of a rookie season. And so now it's how do you coexist in the right proportions to make sure we're as productive as we can be and maybe beyond what we've been over the last 2 weeks. And so that's a balance, and I'm not going to sit here and say that that's easy, right? It's a good problem to have, and it's up to us as coaches and figuring that out, right? And that may take a little bit of time. And I think the other kind of challenge, if you want to call it a challenge, is Dawson's conditioning. He's been out, to your point, 6 weeks. So anytime you're back for your first game, it's how can you make the game slow down, and how can you allow the game to come to you a little bit?
Sean, another part of the equation is Khalil, who seems every time called upon makes plays. What is then the balance of you're looking at your two tight ends, how to play them, but not wanting to take away the earned opportunities of Khalil?
Yeah, and that's some of the blend, right? It's who do you want to be? What proportion of what personnel groups do we want out there? So some of that's game plan driven as well, based on the opponent week to week. So again, somewhat of a good problem to have. But the thing I love about all three of those guys that you mentioned is they're selfless in their approach. So they've been that way since they've arrived.
Go ahead.
Last we talked to you, you were getting ready for the team meeting yesterday. Just was wondering, how did that go? What were the takeaways for the team?
Yeah, I thought it went as good as one could expect, as I could expect, and it was important for me, Catherine, to address the players that are new to us since 2019 and may not have been around that day, and so that they understood that situation and how it unfolded, and that based on who I am and what they've seen, my hope and how I try and do things, and how I handled that situation. So it went well. Their support was clear and much appreciated.
Did that feel like the bigger point of emphasis, the newer players versus players who had been there for the moment?
That was part of the reason, a big part of the reason why I did it, because having everyone on the same page, and if I was a new player, based on how I've seen Sean, I would expect them to think that doesn't that's maybe doesn't fit what I've seen. And so, again, just clear communication, accountability, and just trying to make sure everyone's on the same page.
You spoke to the specific part of the story. You said you hadn't read the rest of it. The main theme of the story seemed to be surrounding your lack of accountability, at least in the eyes of all the people that were spoken to for the story. How do you respond to that?
Yeah, I don't. I know who I am. I know how I try and do things. Am I without flaw? No, I'm not without flaw. And I say that humbly. I believe we try and do things right here. It doesn't mean that everything we do is right. People are going to have their own opinions. I believe we've won a lot of games here since we've arrived, and I'm confident in that. I'm confident in this football team, and people are going to have their opinions. I can't control that.
You mentioned you spoke with the team. What sort of conversations beyond the players did you have yesterday regarding what was in the article?
Yeah, I mean, just more follow-up really from them to me in terms of support, in terms of text messages, guys seeking me out to say, Coach, I mean, even players that are no longer here that have mentioned, other people, even staff, some in this room, some not in this room, that know who I am, know how I try and do things, was clearly an attack on my character, and that's important to me, very important. As much, if not more, very clearly more than wins and losses. Wins and losses are important. But what's more important to me from day one is how you handle yourself. And again, doesn't mean that I've been perfect. No one's perfect. Doesn't mean that I haven't been without flaw. But to me, it's most important that for myself and my family and my kids, that I handle this job the right way.
Sean, what have these past 24 hours been like for you?
Well, I think, Joe, in any of our lives, if this came up for any of us, something like this, it definitely gets your mind spinning, right? Just being real. And it's been disappointing. It's been hurtful, right? At the end of the day, I know who I am. At the end of the day, I know how I handle myself. As I've said humbly, I'm not without flaws, right? I wake up every morning and try and do the best job that I can to win games for the fans of the Buffalo Bills and do it the right way. And that's my main goal every day.
Sometimes we go through this world and we don't know what people think of us, and I'm not saying the negative stuff. I'm thinking about the people who you work with, the people that you're close with, but we don't always say it. And I'm guessing that in the last 24 hours, you've had a lot of people, as you've mentioned, you've indicated. But has that been, I don't want to put a word out there, a relief or the appreciation of when you hear those people come and say, we're with you?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely, Tim. We all go through adversity, right? There's lessons in this. For me, there's lessons in this for my children, my older two in particular, who can understand a little bit more. When you get text messages, when you get people going out of their way personally to come and see you, and when you get notes on your desk in the morning, messages from players who are no longer here that play currently with other teams, I'm not tampering. It's support and it's love, and it's affirming, right? That you are, because that's important, right? To feel like you're trying to do things a certain way, and you want that to be viewed that way on the other end, right? Saying, hey, this is a guy that, I think he's a good coach, and beyond that, he tries to do things the right way. I think that's just very important to me. It's important to how I was raised, and the focus right now is about It needs to be about moving forward and getting myself focused on this game and the challenge of the Kansas City Chiefs. And I owe that to the team, and I'm super proud of them in terms of how they've handled really the last 2 weeks or week when some of this things have come up, right? So they are steadfast in their approach, in particular this week, and the way that they've practiced.
How hard is that to have to compartmentalize, kind of like put this to a side and with a game on Sunday and kind of with something like this that can take up a lot of space in your mind?
Yeah.
Like how do you? Maybe there's not an easy answer, but
Yeah, no, it's not. I mean, this is what I get paid to do in terms of it's what I get paid to do, and it's what I owe to the team. It's what I owe to the fans of the Buffalo Bills. And as I've alluded before and earlier here, I don't take that responsibility lightly.
Lessons, I know it's only been like 24 hours, but what are some of your takeaways so far on just this experience?
Yeah, I mean, we could probably take an hour to talk about them, Catherine. I mean, just starting with, you make every day count. You take the joy that you have when you get the job, and it can ebb and flow through experiences, through trials and tribulations, and you don't want to lose that, right? You don't want to lose it, but it gets tested. As a person of faith, I think that's important. I'm going to say it is that I know who I walk with, or I try and walk with daily. Again, not that I'm without flaws. So.
Talked a lot about character this week. Early in the week with Vaughn, there's a lot of fans that are uncomfortable with what happened last week, and then potentially seeing him playing on Sunday. I know you addressed it and Brandon addressed it, but do you feel comfortable at this point playing him, knowing everything that's going on?
And Matt, I 100% understand. I get it. I understand. This is not an easy situation, and it's the hardest part for us is I'm a football coach. I'm not an investigator, and we only have so much information at this point. So we're doing the best job we can with what we have or don't have, mostly in this case. I can promise those out there that we have looked into every last thing. We jumped on a call Sunday night again, and I said, let's everyone get together and say, what do we know? What do we know? What do we know? And there were multiple people on that call that represent different parts of our organization who have expertise in these areas. And this is where we're at. I wish I had a better answer for those people. I can promise you we're always going to try and do the best thing, number one, for doing what's right beyond the football field. In this case, this is where we're at. And I think for me and for them, it's we have to continue to take it one day at a time and see what more comes forward, if you will.
Is this something kind of you're saying taking it one day at a time that there's constant conversation about? Like if something new comes in, is it like, okay, is this change anything? Like how's that working going forward from your perspective? Yeah,
it hasn't been. Initially, obviously, there was information, but there was a lot of things. I don't know, just things out there. I don't know if I can call that information because is it fact, is it not? I don't know, right? So there was a lot of things coming out, I guess I should say, early. Recently, that's been rather quiet in terms of information from the sources we need the information from. And that's really what we're, at this point, waiting on so we know more going forward.
Last one, guys. John, given the last 24 hours, the ongoing situation with Vaughn, after you had the players meeting with the team yesterday, did you feel, going into that, did you have any concerns about this team's buy-in still and recognition of the culture you've established? And after that, did you feel reaffirmed that everybody was still on the same page and things are going in the direction culture-wise that you have envisioned so far?
Yes, I do. I do. I feel strongly that the looks in their eyes yesterday, the looks in their eyes when they came back here, they were back Monday. We didn't have a team meeting. They conditioned Monday, but we didn't have a team meeting until Wednesday. Excuse me. they seem like they are strong and focused on the Kansas City Chiefs and the leadership of our team, led by guys like Micah Hyde, were very evident this week and much appreciated. I know, Scott, you had one.
The Chiefs, production of those guys have been probably dipped down a little bit, this year, at least. So you're not just preparing for Tyreek back in the day or Kelsey, where they just kind of now they're spreading the ball around a little bit. And the production seems to be lower. Does that make it easier to go against them, or is that? And how tough is it playing Arrowhead?
Yeah, I mean, Arrowhead, I'll start there. I would equate it similar to our stadium and our fans. They're passionate. It's a tough environment, just like people probably, I know I view our situation here with our fans and our stadium. That's one. And then two is, they're a different team, right? We're a different team year to year as well. That's naturally the situation. Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, I think you start there, and really that's all you need to say. I think Andy is so creative in how he spreads the ball around, to your point. He gets Kelsey involved. Patrick is elite at what he does, and even in the games he's been behind, he brings them back. And so, he's well decorated for all those reasons, just to name a few. And so, tough team, and then their defense is playing extremely well, and their kicker is, as we've seen, has hit long field goals over the years. I think 60-some already this year, 60-some yard field goals. So, you've got to be aware of that also.